artificial intelligence is changing the way businesses operate. From predictive analysis to automation, AI is reshaping IoT solutions. And our product director, as mentioned, joined us today to explore how Instacom integrates AI into its IoT ecosystem and what it means for communication and business efficiency across South Africa. And there's a lot to be said, obviously, with the word IoT, Internet of Things. At some stage, guys were talking about changing Internet of Things to Internet of Everything instead of IoT. But it is a very wide terminology, I'm sure. Not necessarily my forte. Rather, obviously I sit in sales and marketing and obviously a global expansion rather than in technology, and that's why we have you and a lot of people in your team. But how would you describe the role of IoT in the world today, and maybe more specifically, why is it such a powerful combination when you put AI and IoT next to each other?
No, perfect, Roland. Thank you. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to our discussion today. And I think if we start with the IoT, with the Internet of Things subject, it's such a broad subject. If you take a look at where it was a few years back, the Internet of Things, like you mentioned, they were considering changing it to the Internet of Everything, that encompasses about all data captured via some sort of connection or being stored in the cloud, etc. Where in recent times IoT has moved a lot into the sensor market, your smart solutions, your smart cities, smart houses, smart manufacturing, all of that type of things. And where the Instacom solution still forms part of that broad abbreviation, you can say, or area. I think we've moved into a lot more into the SaaS environment, software as a service. But because we don't just do software, we do the hardware, the connectivity, all of that, and so we still form part of the IoT ecosystem. And if you take a look at what I've mentioned now, is that the IoT environment's got so much data out there. There is this massive amount of big data. And for a human, it's almost impossible to sift through all of that information. If you take a look at the amount of transactions we generate on a daily basis, it's in the millions. And how is it possible for any one human to be able to work through that and start seeing trends and understand what the data means for them and having actionable information or intel to make better business decisions? And that's where AI or artificial intelligence comes into play. And again, AI is such a broad name as well, an area where there's a lot of things inside of AI and different sub-levels of AI, etc. But AI has really only become into the spotlight in the last few years. But if you take a look at the history of AI, the first AI model was created in 1956. Yeah. So it's crazy.
Been actually. There a while.
Yes, it's been there a long time. And if you take a look at one of the most popular subsets of AI is machine learning, and that was actually one of the first portions of AI, where the whole idea of the people that put this term together was trying to get machines to operate on a human level and to automate human tasks in such a way to enhance the human behavior and so forth, and be able to automate certain processes. So that's where the whole AI push came from. But if we now move a bit to recent times, and the explosion of AI in the world currently, with your implementation of Gen AI or generative AI, you take a look at like ChatGPT or Google's Gemini, Microsoft Copilot. You look at DeepSeek, which recently made waves across the market. With Gen AI, it's all about generating information in on a human level. So you are now able to start talking to your data, ask questions about it, getting feedback in human language.
It's a lot more precise.
Yes. And I mean, if you take a look at Gen AI, it's actually a NLM model, which is natural language models, which tries to mimic human language and human behavior. And we're still a while away from true AI or super AI as they call it. And if you then take another portion of it is AI in the cloud, where most of the AI analytics and automation, everything happened in the cloud, but that's very, very resource intensive. If you take a look at the processing power you need to be able to sift through all of that massive amount of data. And something we've started seeing in the industry in the last couple of years is AI on the edge, and that basically takes a certain portion of that analysis of the data and the information to the actual hardware side of things, happening on a device level or on a sensor level. So there's a lot of improvements and enhancements happening in that field. So where you now don't need to have all of this processing power in a cloud solution, you can now start doing a lot of that on the hardware itself. But again, you have all of this information and AI, etc. But how does it give you actionable intel? And that's where real-time analytics comes in. That's where your Gen BI comes in, generative business intelligence. And I would really like to touch on that today as well, as I'm very excited about the about the opportunities and the possibilities with it. Because now suddenly you have all of these AI components, you have all of this data, and now suddenly you have a way to analyze that data in real time,
in seconds,
and not
Normally
hours or days or weeks with analysts, etc. So I'm really, really excited about the future on this.
Yeah, I think it's actually scary, to be honest. If you look at what Tesla does, and Elon in the world is driving in the sense of robotics, it almost is a movie at play. And the scary portion of that is obviously if you get into a car that thinks for itself, it is as dangerous as a robot that you put a gun in his hands to enter a war. But we're definitely moving a lot closer to the movies that we've seen for as long as I can remember. In the year 2000, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And now we're on 2025 and it is literally happening. And what's scary is it is so fast. It moves so fast. I can't even imagine what we're going to see in the next 5 years, maybe in the next year, and there's a lot of disruptive companies out there in this space. And obviously for us, we've got to stay on top of it. And obviously we've got to be innovative and see how we can actually utilize AI to help and improve our areas on the ground. What are we busy with at Instacom to stay innovative?
No, 100%. And I think if you take a look at being innovative, it's not just about being innovative to the products we supply to our customers, but it's being innovative internally with our internal processes, internal ways that we do things. And that's, as you mentioned, it's scary where we're going. And just to add to that is the problem with the whole AI push and the massive amount of improvements that's happened recently is that there's no real governing body governing the rules of what can and can't be doing or be done.
Maybe the only governance that we have at the moment, which is still very young, is protection of personal information. Different countries, different acronyms that they give it. A lot of countries, including the US, I came back from the US last year, a lot of the states do not have it at all. They utilize GDPR from Europe as a governing body in most of the states, and so up in Africa, they talk about data protection, but there's no legalities around it just yet. But outside of that, it is still very, very, very fresh.
No, and I mean, there's a lot of lawmakers now currently pushing to try and just implement some type of guidelines into how AI is being implemented to ensure we don't end up in a movie.
Isn't that just a question of time?
Yeah, no, it is. So it's a race. Yeah, it's a bit of race against the time at this stage. Is to how do we ensure that whatever AI capabilities is implemented is in such a way that it enhances human life and not disrupts or destroys human life. And for me, the whole AI push is a bit of a sensitive matter as well, especially if you take a look at a country like South Africa and Africa where unemployment is a big factor. And I'm touching a bit on some other subjects now, but with my recent travels to China, it was amazing and scary to see how AI and automation is taking jobs away.
And it's already in use.
It's already in use. I mean, when we were staying in the hotel, when you order room service, you don't get a person coming up and bring your room service. You got a robot coming up, ringing your bell, and it gives you your food or your room service. In restaurants, you're getting the same. Even the people that used to clean the streets is now being replaced by robots. And that's where in South Africa we really need to be innovative about how do we implement AI in such a way that it rather enhances our employees rather than replaces them.
About 2 years ago when I went to the US, maybe 3 years ago, for the first time, one of the restaurants also had a robot there that literally follows the waiter, and he puts all the dirty plates and things on the robot, and once it's full, it goes to the kitchen by itself. And as you mentioned, taking away a lot of jobs. I think in a country like Africa, and I suppose India, South America, it definitely plays a massive role in how do you implement this and how do you manage and govern human existence.
Yeah, no, definitely. So South African businesses really needs to be careful, but also be innovative in how do they implement it in such a way that, as I mentioned, it enhances their employees' capabilities to drive profits and create more business opportunities rather than replacing employees to chase the bottom line.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, to get back on the innovation we as Instacom is busy with is that internally we've started implementing different AI tools in different areas of our company. If you take a look from our marketing perspective, our sales, our support teams, all of those teams does have a AI assistant or AI tool somewhere to improve the processes, enhancing our support we provide to our customers, improving our times our time to market and just our general day-to-day lives.
Time to respond.
Yes.
It increases effectiveness and efficiencies. Yeah. So for us, it's been great in the game that we're in, the type of operations we run. But outside of that, for our customers, we've obviously integrated AI into our solution at Instacom. And so is there some practical examples that you can give us on that?
Yeah, 100%. And this is a very exciting time for me. It's been a project I've been working on personally for the last year and a half. And I mean, we recently launched our EB, our Instacom Business Intelligence solution. Where we take all of this massive amount of data I spoke about earlier, and we start providing this in a real-time solution for our customers where they can in real time see exactly what is happening out in the field. There's real-time analytics, there's dashboards, there's automated reporting in it. But then the beautiful part of it is the AI portion of it, where we can now take historic information and we can start building predictive models for them to be able to start predicting certain outcomes in their business to ensure that they can allocate resources correctly, they can mitigate risks in certain areas, and just drive that that bottom line of theirs, and ensuring their employees is in a better place, and the risk factor is starting to be taken away, and those decisions and real-time analytics happen instantly. So as soon as something happens in the field, if you take a look at our checklist module, for argument's sake, as soon as the employee in the field completes a checklist, doesn't matter what it is. It can be a health and safety checklist or a compliance checklist. As soon as that is completed, that information is displayed real time on these dashboards
As it happens.
So you immediately have a overview of what's happening in all of your operations across your company. When in the past you needed to wait for the paperwork to come in, then somebody needed to go and sit and put that information into an Excel spreadsheet or into some system, and then somebody needed to go and analyze that information, and only weeks or months later you get a view of what went wrong 2 months back, why there's a downward trend in certain aspects, or why there was an upward trend.
Yeah, it's actually scary because so business intelligence, it kind of sits in the historical portion of the business, as well as in the current area as it happens. But when you overlay artificial intelligence on top of that, you then give it, in the Instacom environment, a component of predictive analysis where it takes all that information and predicts where you're going. And regardless of what industry you're in, you literally, it's ad hoc, right? You can make and break and bend it to accommodate any portion of your business.
Yeah, I mean, every aspect of that solution is customizable. So it doesn't matter which industry or vertical a customer is, we can accommodate them in. If it's a farm that needs to start managing the employees' clockings or time and attendance type environment, or they need to start managing when seedlings was planted, when they need to start with their next seedling batch, and so forth. The packing portion of it, we've started helping mines in managing their health and safety, their KPIs, SLAs. There's so much that we can do with this solution. So I'm very, very excited about where we're going with this, and the opportunities that this provides to our customers to grow their businesses, and be able to manage their risks and just their entire operational view of their company.
Yeah, this is a game changer, as they call it. In terms of business value, how does AI improve operational efficiency for our customers? And are there measurable benefits? One of the areas that I've had a discussion with one of the security companies that we've seen in Zambia. I showed them that it's not just about penalizing people not doing what they're supposed to. There's obviously analytics will show that to you, but it also gives you an opportunity to actually reward people doing exceptional work. Because of the predictive analysis and the AI component, analyzing all the different trends and things, you can actually see which staff members have visited the most sites, which individuals have done the best in all their patrols, regardless on which sites they were, based on obviously the information that you require and the dashboards that you built. There's literally nothing that withholds the picture that you want to see on a daily, on-the-go basis, live, as it happens. How much fuel has been put in my company, into the fleet, in which regions they are, which individual drives the most kilometers, which vehicle uses the most fuel. And suddenly you can actually go into a lot of detail, and because of that you can see, but maybe this vehicle's engine is a problem. It consumes more fuel than all the others. These type of things I think really makes a difference in our clients' lives. What type of examples can you think of that obviously has such a big impact?
No, definitely. And I think if I can add to some of the things you said, is if you take some of the real world examples of the solutions we've implemented so far with some of our customers, on one of the mines with one of the security companies, they get penalized if certain things is not done or captured and so forth. And at this stage, we almost saving them 37,000 rand per transaction. And that starts adding up. I mean, I think at this stage we're saving this customer about 150 or 200,000 rand a month just by basically starting to automate that process, but also for them to have a instant view if anything goes wrong, escalation on it. We give them the tool to start measuring where they need to focus on. We have another customer where we've started managing their fuel, the whole fuel management life cycle. From the amount of stock they currently have available to which vehicles is using the most fuel, and that customer, we're looking at almost a 60,000 rand saving so far. So there's real world tangibles that's currently happening out there where we're saving people money, but also enhancing their processes and just improving their daily operational lives.
Yeah. We've done a integration with one of the mines as well, with their drone technology that measures the heaps on the mine, and it then links back to the weighbridge, the access point in and out the actual mine itself. That typical solution would have cost within our platform around about 10,000 rand a month, and that according to the customer saved him close to 2 million a month, just by having overview of what's coming in, what's leaving, who's got it, where's it going, quality and the controls behind it. But it also gives them something to work with in the sense of predicting where we're going. We're doing what we're doing right now, so how long it's going to last, how much money are we going to make or lose, depending on what type of metrics you put in there. So, I think just in a nutshell, it's all about getting the technology and doing something with it. I think the last 10, 15, maybe 20 years, we've captured a lot of information. We've started connecting to the internet. We started to look at solutions, including hardware and software, and how do we connect. But all of that uses a lot of data. But it means literally nothing if you do not analyze it. And a lot of people have spent a lot of time implementing or employing people to analyze these things, where all of this now is automated. So it actually allows you to do more with less.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that you have to let people go. It just helps you to expand faster.
Oh, no, definitely. And I mean, one of the most exciting things with this project is some of the new functionality that we're currently looking or working on. And that is the Gen BI, the generative BI part of it, where now you don't just see the information anymore. You can start interacting with the information.
Oh, wow.
Using generative AI, you can start talking to your data, ask it questions, and it can start explaining to you why this trend is happening, what information you are seeing currently. So you don't need to wonder, why do I see an upward trend or why do I see a downward trend? You can start asking your questions, and with that, it will give you information, and you can then start asking follow-up questions and drill down into the minute details so that you understand exactly what you are seeing and why certain KPIs is not being met, where you need to start focusing on, etc. So I'm very, very excited about this.
That's very interesting, because it literally gives you the opportunity to physically talk to your business.
Yes.
Right? Can you imagine? And on the back of that, maybe, and we've got one of the episodes that we talk about security, and it's actually scary to think that all of your information is going to sit inside of this ecosystem, if you want to call it that, and then security behind your platform becomes crucial. Someone gets hold of everything that you've asked your business, and trends that's been built inside of your business that shows you literally how it functions, what's coming, what's going, and you can interact with that. That just becomes a whole new level. I think security is such an important portion these days with regards to protecting not just the information, but everything inside of it. Yeah. So obviously there's a massive trend globally, even in little South Africa and any one of the maybe underdeveloped countries in Africa, where they talk about AI and IoT, and SaaS, software as a service. But how do we prepare as businesses? How do we prepare ourselves? Because it's not just as simple as plugging in an application.
No, definitely, and that's where with the spotlight being so big on AI at this stage is that everybody is sort of grabbing at straws to understand how do they implement it inside of their business that it actually enhances their environment. And it's not just a fad that is currently running or so on. So it's definitely something that I think a lot of us has grappled with. Is yes, we have all of these tools, all of this AI assistance available, etc. But how do we implement it in a tangible way that it actually enhances the workforce? And as I mentioned previously, I think some of the biggest concerns for me with the AI is the job loss. So it's really about how do we innovate and think outside of the box, especially in countries like South Africa with the unemployment, is how do we implement it in a responsible way that we still ensure we employ people, we provide for families, and we don't take that away from them, but we are enhancing the company to chase bigger profits, to enhance business processes. So yeah, and I think it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly what each and every company needs to do, but everybody needs to start preparing for it because it's coming. So people really need to start researching the different trends that is happening out there. If we take a look at journalism, how much that has been impacted in the last 3 years with your generative AI that came in, how many job losses were there? But
I think ChatGPT was the first stab that came into play, especially in that environment. But one of the things guys said was that, remember, ChatGPT won't be as big because they're using information that's on the net, and on the net is old and outdated. And I think it's actually changed.
Yeah, no, definitely.
It's not that outdated anymore.
No.
It's also grown and evolved. I've heard a lot of the big media houses used to have maybe 20 and 30 and 40 people employed, obviously doing all these different things, and they literally cut down to 80 or 90% of them, which is only a handful left in the media environment. I'm just thinking, a lot of the guys making decisions that owns businesses, and maybe it will change in the next couple of years because so many young people start building their own businesses much earlier. But decision makers and business owners at this stage isn't necessarily 20, especially when you have huge workforces that you've got to run and manage. I'm just wondering, how capable are the 50, 60-year-olds adopting the technology and implementing that in their businesses? One thing that I've seen is that you either implement technology or you get replaced by technology. But the unfortunate thing is, it's hard, for 50 or 60-year-olds to learn new things. How do we go about? I mean, should businesses then employ a bunch of young people without life experience but understands technology? Is maybe a combination of the two?
No, definitely. And I think if you go and take a look at some of the trends in the market currently, is that your IT teams and your tech teams, a lot of them is from a younger age. I mean, if I take a look at some of the kids coming out of school now, the amount of knowledge they have about technology and the information that's out there, it's scary. So no, business.
We've got a lot of young people.
Yes, we do, and the ideas and concepts that comes from these young people is amazing, because they just think about things in different ways. But as you said, the problem is that life experience as well, and that's the big problem with AI as well, is that it doesn't have that human thinking yet. It's got the language models down where it can start communicating to you in a human way, but it doesn't have the human capabilities yet of thinking innovative in certain aspects. And that's why I say is AI should be a enhancement to your employees and not a replacement of your employees.
But it does offer a huge portion in every business
Yeah.
as employment opportunities.
Yes.
IT infrastructure becomes crucial. So if I had arguments like a logistics company or a cleaning company or a gardening services company, if I implement technology, I've got to host it somewhere. And so to understand how to host and where do we connect from, where do we have our DBs or our databases, all that has to be set up. So either I've got to implement a contractor that specializes in the IT infrastructure. And remember, it's not just implementation, it's maintenance, and it's also the growing portion of technology that's got to be updated always. The security behind the infrastructure. Someone has to capture and allow this new technology software that you're implementing in your business to actually work and function and stay up to date, and what type of questions you're asking this information system. You've got to put someone in your environment that manages and maintain and grow the solution with you. So it does also bring a portion of that, but it is definitely a lot more high skilled opportunities
Yes.
rather than just someone coming out of school and doesn't necessarily have the skill to do the infrastructure. So there's luckily a component of creating job opportunities as well with technology, but it is put together differently.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I think one of the major things is that everybody that's currently employed somewhere or has a job or doesn't have a job is that they need to start focusing and upskilling in some AI skills. Doesn't matter what, because somewhere in their daily lives, in the next few years, they're gonna need to start using it or just get in touch with it on a daily basis, from using your emails. I mean, if you take a look at what Microsoft and Google is currently doing, integrating their Gen AI models inside of their mailing email solutions. It's really, people need to start upskilling themselves in this environment.
And Excel has also
Excel,
got a
you
lot
name
of
it,
new
Word.
things.
There's a lot of, I mean, almost in any of the big software companies out there, there's some portion of AI in it where you can interact with AI, you can start writing documents, etc., and it can then, as you write, it gives you tips on how to improve it, or maybe rather look at this, etc. So it's an interesting times we're moving into.
So obviously, looking ahead, how's Instacom planning to evolve its AI capabilities? As I just mentioned, it's something that we've got to stay on top of the game. We've got to make sure we're in touch with customer requirements, but also capabilities and skill. How do we make sure that we evolve? And obviously, very importantly, what can our clients expect from us in the near future?
No, definitely. And I think one of our big pushes at this stage is the Gen BI side of things, as it's just going to be a market disruptor, as there isn't currently anything really in the verticals where we play in that has this capability. So I'm really excited about that.
So we are really first to market
Yes.
again,
Yeah.
like we've been with so many different products.
Yes.
And so what portion of the IBI and Gen AI, as you mentioned, will take us to the next level? Or is that something you don't want to expose?
No, I don't want to expose everything yet. But yeah, it's really an exciting times ahead. I'm really excited to start seeing how customers interact with this, because every customer's requirement is going to be different, and every solution we put forth to each customer will be on a whole nother level. It will be something unique, different, and it will be a differentiator for each of our customers as well. It doesn't matter in which space they play. Really, really looking forward to the capabilities with AI we're currently implementing across our solutions.
There is obviously another spin to AI, software as a service, all the functionality that we just mentioned, and that's connecting that on satellite level. Obviously, Elon Musk and Tesla's is in the spotlight, but there's a lot of other satellite
Yes.
suppliers out there, specific to some continents in some way. And software, it only works if it's connected.
Yes.
And that's one of the areas that Instacom also focuses on, to understand we don't necessarily own the infrastructure, but we understand working with so many different environments and MNOs like Telkom and Vodacom, to understand how do we connect. So it's not just the normal connectivity that we deal with on a daily basis in South Africa. It's also satellite connectivity. Maybe as a little bit of a summary, we need to make sure that we're ready for the change in all of our businesses. We need to understand that there's IT infrastructure that either I've got to do it internally or I've got to get a company to help us with it and maintain it. And then also need to make sure that we understand what type of tools are available to be able to make us more efficient and effective, because it affects your bottom line. If you have more money to be able to do marketing, it helps you to grow faster. It helps you and funds growth in the different areas. So there's quite a lot of things that we've got to take into consideration as business owners, and it's not just in business to business workforce management like where Instacom is involved in. It is also the logistics companies and the cleaning companies and the health and safety companies. And if you look at public sector, you start looking at ambulance services, police services, and it doesn't stop. But every single one of us have to make sure that we're on top of our game when it comes to technology.
Yes, no, definitely, no. I fully agree with you on that. It's
Francois, thank you very much again for spending time with us. I think it's very informative. I think there's a lot of things that a lot of people don't even think about. This will definitely plant some seeds for people looking at their own businesses and how do we position ourselves for the future. Thank you very much. Enjoy, obviously, the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Enjoy Cape Town. And, we'll definitely talk soon.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you again for having me. It's always a pleasure spending time and talking about the things that I love.
Good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks.